Hi friends, welcome to Art Party with Faith Green. Have you ever seen How to Train Your Dragon? Well, episode 1 of my new YouTube channel is going to be dedicated to my fabulous niece Sophia, who absolutely adored this movie. I love you, Sophia, and I really miss getting to Art Party with you. So just the other day, I watched a tutorial on YouTube that taught me how to draw Toothless. And that's what we're looking at here. Is the left on my iPad is a screenshot of what Toothless looked like in the end of the tutorial that I watched. And then on the right, you'll see the drawing that I drew of Toothless while I was following along with this tutorial. And it only took 10 minutes. I feel like I could draw Toothless anytime if somebody asked me because it was so easy. And I'm drawing it now on a rock based on how I remember drawing it the first time watching along with the tutorial. So like you'll see I did the eyes first and then the nose and then the head and then all the rest. So you're going to see me drawing it on the rock. Then you're going to see me painting it in and you're going to see it all the way through to the end. And on the right you can see a few other rocks that I've painted, and those are my little turtle family. They're just regular rocks that I painted to look like turtles. But the YouTube tutorial that I did watch was so much fun. I'm going to drop a link to the drawing tutorial that I watched in the comments below so that you can all take your turns drawing your own Toothless. And I even had a fun idea for you. After you draw one of your own, would be to print it out and give copies to everyone in your family, then have a coloring contest and present the one that you colored to the winner after everyone casts their votes. Or if you happen to have a smooth, clean rock and paints, you could paint them on a rock just like I'm doing and make that the grand prize. This rock is going to be so cool. I didn't actually find it this white. I cleaned it, dried it, and prepped it with Rust-Oleum 2X flat white spray paint on both sides first so that I won't have to do so many layers and so that the colors I add will be very vibrant. Yellow paint, for instance, on a regular rock doesn't ever turn out yellow enough for me. But starting out with a white background does wonders, especially if you want to make it glow or be blacklight reactive with neon paints, like I just might be doing later. And I'm drawing the outline here with a bullet-shaped 0.7mm Posca paint pen, which is by far the most useful paint pen I have ever owned. And if I mess up, I can wipe it off easily with a Q-tip before it dries. So while I'm drawing away here, and you might notice that the light is flashing a lot, and the reason behind that here is that I'm sitting outside on my deck overlooking a beautiful creek, and it's sort of a windy day, and I have an umbrella over my desk, and that keeps it mostly in the shade, but the umbrella is being slightly lifted up and down by the wind, and that's what's making the light shining in spurts, so that's why that's happening. I hope it's not too distracting. But anyways, while I'm just drawing away, I thought I'd give a shout out to all my fans, beginning with my two lovely daughters who love me, believe in me, and inspire me to live my human design and to act out of love instead of fear, to passionately pursue that which sets my soul on fire, which is mostly art and disc golf, to finish what I start, and to shoot for the stars. I'd say that the happiest I've ever been in my entire 40 years of living was getting to stay at home with them during their younger years, just living and loving and igniting in them an insatiable appetite for learning. My oldest daughter will be a Berkeley graduate in less than 1 month, getting her degree in sociology because she's determined to help people and to improve our society. She actually helps me all the time. Just 2 weeks ago, she double dog dared me to get off of social media for 1 whole week. Well, I got so much done in that first week of accepting her challenge that I'm already at the end of week 2. And today, I am making my first YouTube video ever, which is something I've wanted to do for way too long. My younger daughter is an artist just like me. She loves to love and she loves to dream. One time, when she was little, it was her turn to tumble in her ballet class, and she just stood there, almost frozen but slightly swaying, with the hugest smile on her face and a twinkle in her eye, for an awkwardly uncomfortable amount of time, actually. Everyone was yelling her name to go, but she was already taking her turn. She was tumbling and prancing, spinning and swooning, perfectly and beautifully, but all in her mind. It was easy for me to put myself in her shoes and see what she was seeing, because she is just like me. I get caught up in my daydreams all the time, and you know what? I choose to believe that that is totally okay. My message to you right now is that I hope you never, ever, ever quit your daydream. Do what you love and love what you do. Life is just too short for anything else. So here I am, I'm done with my outline and I'm starting to fill it in with paint. And I'm using a dark gray paint, which I made out of just black and white, mixing a lot of black with a little bit of white. And on the right, if you could see my paint palette, I learned a brand new trick that I'd love to share. It's really amazing. It's called a wet palette, and it keeps your paints nice and wet without drying out before you're done using them. And how I made it is just I got a cookie tray and then I filled it with water, just very shallow amount of water, and then I laid a wax paper over it. And then I put my paints on that, and I actually was curious to see how long it would keep my paints wet. So I left it out like that. And the next day, beyond 24 hours, the paints were still wet. They were only dried out once the water evaporated, when it got really hot and that water evaporated, and then my paints dried out. So I think that as long as there's water underneath the parchment paper, your paints will stay nice and fresh and wet for as long as the water is under it. So that is a really good tip I thought I'd share. And you can see I'm just filling it in with paint. I'm actually going over a lot of the details that I already drew, and to save time in the future, I wouldn't actually put the details on there. I would just paint it in dark gray and then add my details later, like the nose, for instance, and then the dots, whatever you call those. Yeah, the dots on his legs and on his head and on his ears. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it would definitely save some time to just add those details in after you put the dark layer down. But you could also color this dragon in however you want. You wouldn't have to use gray like it was in the movie. I just chose to go with that because that, it's a little more realistic. I hope that someday my nieces and nephews will get to watch this. I miss them all so very, very much that sometimes it actually hurts. I wish I would have started this channel years ago so that I could have regularly been more a part of all of their lives. So right now I'd like to send a big virtual hug to Sterling and Lauren, to Kayla, Zach, Shannara, Angelica, and Jarrett, and to Orion and Omega, to Seth and to Noah, to Andrew, to Reagan, Grant, Sophia, and Judah. You will all always be invited to Auntie Faithy's art parties. And don't forget to sign the guest list if you can by leaving a comment below. I sure would love to hear from each and every one of you. When I was little, I used to watch my dad draw caricatures, and I quickly became mesmerized with color. It ultimately became my favorite thing. And over the years, I realized that there's just no finer color than the color green, because it is simply pregnant with promise. The things that are green are usually alive, and I love living. You can imagine how happy I was to learn on my first date with my high school sweetheart that his last name was Green. I felt like I just won the lottery of life. As you may have guessed already, heck yeah, I married him. He's a tree guy, and he does his artistry in the trees. How cool is that? And I hope he subscribes to my channel. So right now I am going to add in the highlights, which basically I just added more white to my gray, and now I have a light gray, a super light gray. And we're using this on the highlights so that it'll pop. And you can see I'm using a paintbrush that is very fine tip, and this is also a great trick I'd like to tell you. Instead of spending a ton of money on a bunch of paintbrushes just so that you can use the fine tipped paintbrushes that come in the set like I was doing, I found out that you could get 100 eyeliner paintbrushes for around $8. And for me, I'm not the best at rinsing out all my brushes afterwards and keeping them nicely dried and stored. I sort of just always think that I'm going to come back to my paints, and so I leave them out, and a lot of times the tips get ruined, and then I have to end up throwing them away. So having 100 of them really was quite a game changer for me. I really enjoy not having to break the bank and having a lot of these little fine tip brushes. I think I found them on Amazon. It's just $100 for a set of eight. $8 for a set of 100, sorry. Pretty amazing. It does take a while because I think they come from overseas. So put in your order now and you'll get them in quite a while, but they will be worth the wait. I can guarantee that. So back to my fan club. I'd like to talk about my mother. She has taught me a lot of things, but most importantly, she taught me how to love being a mom, how to thoroughly enjoy being in nature, and how to spread random acts of love to others with what's called the Kindness Rocks Project. We just paint rocks and hide them all around town, wherever we go, simply to brighten up the day of the person who finds them. And I have to admit, I thought she'd gone a little cuckoo when she first told me that she'd been painting rocks, and I resisted joining her in her favorite new endeavor for as long as humanly possible, mostly because I was looking for a new career, and I had a feeling that if I got hooked on painting rocks, I would end up unemployed forever. But luckily, I was very wrong. My newfound obsession with painting rocks led to first my creation of the Facebook page called Faith Green, the Pet Portrait Machine, and then it led me to my all-time favorite job ever, which is my current job, being an art and activities leader at an after-school program called Treehouse. You see, my never-ending daydream is to paint rocks and play disc golf all day, every day. And guess what? I got to do both for a living. Working with over 70 of the coolest, happiest, kindest, smartest, and most artistic and unique kids on the planet every single day has been an experience so incredible that it's hard to even put into words. My 40th birthday fell on a Monday, which landed me at work instead of at a disc golf course, but I sure am glad I didn't call in sick that day, because I must have received 50 handmade, handwritten cards, one huge card with everyone's signature, happy scribblings on iPads, and one kid even Google mapped our location to see one of my frisbees was stuck on the roof, and he had my boss get it down for me as a happy birthday surprise. I had only been working there for 2 months at that time. Their love and appreciation simply for who I am as a person is the kind of kindness that's most contagious. They make me want to inspire the world with everything I've got. And if we're talking art supplies, I have quite a bit. So if you're watching this and you're wondering what kind of videos you can expect next, all I can say to that is, who can say the sky's the limit when there are footprints on the moon? But seriously, I'm mostly into painting rocks, obviously, making things glow and then letting them go. I love lettering, making all sorts of beautiful things with beads, dot painting, mandalas, drawing, coloring, journaling, writing poems and songs, painting pet portraits, making stickers out of puff paints, face painting, mehendi or henna, tie-dyeing, disc dyeing, die cutting and paper crafts, trophy and award making. I like to turn old calendars into cards and envelopes, storytelling, inventing, fabric painting, making treasure out of trash, which is also known as upcycling, making coaster sets with alcohol inks on tile, mosaics, making stickers, and all kinds of other Pinterest-inspired things. It's pretty hard for me to choose what kind of art I'd like to make next because I have so many choices, so I leave a lot of the decision making up to fate. Something, somewhere, will spark my interest, much like learning how to draw Toothless did, and then from there, I just can't help but to take it to a whole new level all my own. So since this is such a dark rock and I have such a bright background, I figured I would capitalize on that pure, pretty white background and use yellow, because yellow, like I said, on any regular rock doesn't ever turn out very yellow. But when you have a background like this, super white, I feel like it would have been a waste if I would have done any other color other than bright, bright, bright yellow, maybe a bright green. So I made his eyes dark green. Well, not dark green. It's actually a really super light pale green that I mixed with a little bit of water. I watered it down and I put green on the top and yellow at the bottom for the lights, for the highlights, so that it looks glassy and bright. And then I'm doing now the background. I'm painting it all with a very watered down, very pale yellow. And I am using my brand new nice paints. I have a lot of paints. These are my nice paints, I call them, and they're Arteza. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's Arteza. It's Arteza. And I got these paints from a very dear friend who has ordered the most pet portraits of any of my other friends, or customers, if you want to call them that. I don't know. She has quite the collection. I think I may have made her 17 rocks by now, but I kind of lost track. So I could be wrong, but a lot. She has kept me quite busy, and she loves to give me these really lovely bonuses, which included this brand new set of Arteza paints, and they're just such high quality paints. They're just so bright and vibrant, and you don't have to use layer after layer after layer. And I actually tried these paints with a yellow on a darker background, and I was shocked. It looked yellow. I didn't even have to add white in the background to get a pop in yellow. So sometimes it's all about the quality of the paints, but I figured I would water these down a little bit and just make it look sort of like almost like watercolors. You know, when you water down acrylics, it kind of looks watercolored. But I figured that way it would blend better with the yellow and the green. And so I'm just finishing up here, filling it out, putting yellow in the center and then a light pale green on the outside, and I'm almost done here. So I wanted to mention, if you are listening to that super long, exhaustive list of arts and crafts that I like to do, and something stood out to you and you thought, oh, that would be fun, I would love to do that, then you should leave a comment below and inspire me to inspire you. Tell me what you feel you would love to see done so that you can learn how to do it too. That would help me and it would help you, hopefully. So I would like to go over some of the things that I want to try someday that I've never tried. And that would be stained glass. That's always been very interesting me. I love the looks of stained glass. There's just so much that you could do with it. I know it probably requires a lot of special equipment and time and training. So someday I wanted to learn how to do stained glass. I think that would be really fun. I'd also like to learn airbrushing, and I think I even have a kit somewhere, but I'd need to get new paints for it and just play with it until I've figured it out. But I think that would also be very fun. And someday I would like to try sandblasting art into glass, because I have a friend named Bob who does that, and he showed me some of his work, and he would do doors and windows and the most beautiful scenes ever. Just incredible, incredible what he could do with just blasting glass. He's not even using colors in its art, and it's just very impressive. So someday I would like to learn how to do that. And I'd also like to refine my skills with watercolors and oil paints. And like right now, I'm learning how to draw again. I haven't drawn in so long because normally I just paint rocks. I just, find a rock, I put something on it. I just go straight into painting it. I never really even outline them, or unless I'm doing a pet portrait, then I would use pencil first or a light yellow color to do the outlines. But yeah, I haven't even really drawn lately. And when I was younger, like especially through school, I loved to doodle. I doodled on everything. I couldn't be without my Pentel pen set. And every single year, I look forward to my birthday because I knew I would be getting a new set of Pentel pens. And they came in a nice little clip case. You could clip them closed with a button, and all the colors. And there was, of course, different sets that you could get, but I always got the one with all the colors because I love all the colors. And I wouldn't ever leave home without my art stuff. And I'm still the same way. I'm kind of like a traveling art party. Wherever I go, I'm in my car, and I will have, at any given time, I have pens, colored pencils, I have paints, I have rocks, and I usually have disc golf stuff too. I have lots of discs and maybe a portable basket. So if I'm ever going somewhere, I kind of just bring the art party with me. And that's why I decided to name my channel Art Party with Faith Green, because wherever I go, I like to bring the art and make it a party. Why not? Life's too short, right? Someday I'd like to try paint pouring. I don't know if you've heard that or seen it done before, but it's quite mesmerizing. And one thing that stopped me from ever trying paint pouring before this is that it seems like it requires quite a bit of paints. And even though you water them down and, that'll make them stretch, I'm sort of stingy with my art supplies when it comes to me doing my own projects. I just have a hard time using up what supplies I have because I never know if or when I'm going to have enough money to buy more art supplies. And whenever I do buy art supplies, I always overspend. And I just can't help myself. There's always something more that I end up buying, even though I'm only trying to buy one or two things. So, what do they say? Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And that's me when it comes to buying art supplies. And when I brought my own art supplies into the school for the kids to use, they were quite liberal with the paints that I brought, especially the puff paints. And I have to say, it did give me quite a scare to see how much they were using. They would just blob them on, and then I think it's because they come out so quickly, but they would just put big blobs of paint places, and then what you could do next is take a toothpick and make patterns in this globs of puff paints, and then turn off the lights. And if they're neon puff paints, they look amazing. It's really cool to see the swirling patterns. And sometimes they would just put big piles and blobs of puff paints down on the mat and dip their paint or dip their rock right into the paint. And so that was also a very cool, interesting way of doing painting rocks that I'd never even tried, but I was inspired, and they inspired me actually to use my good paints on this rock. I'd always been saving them up for maybe a rainy day, and I've had them for quite a long time, and I had never even used them before. So I was very impressed with how beautiful they are, and especially the yellow. I tried the yellow of this Arteza paints on darker colors, and it worked. You didn't even have to, paint it white in the background. It just worked. So it was very impressive. And here I'm just blobbing on this neon paints. Neon paints are a lot like glow-in-the-dark paints in their texture and consistency. They're much thicker than regular paints. And if I hadn't have put a background, the yellow and the green, and if I just used the neon paints on white, I don't really like the color of the yellow in the daytime. It just looks kind of dull to me. So that's why I added yellow in the background and then that soft green, because it makes it just really vibrant and bright. So this paint or this rock actually changes so much depending on the lighting. So during the day, it still looks bright and vibrant and yellow, but at night it becomes even brighter and even more high contrast. So that's what I was going for. And with these neon paints, the brush strokes don't really matter as much. It's more pushing the paint around. So you put big globs of paint on the rock, and then you just push the blobs into the details and into the cracks and the crevices, making sure that it's nice and thick. And it helps to have a black light handy while you're painting with neon paints, because then you can see the little spots that you missed or the spots that are too thin. So you can see this black light in the background. That's what I'm using. And it started out with just a flashlight. I had a blacklight flashlight that I got actually for disc golf because I like to play night golf a lot. And it's really effective at charging up the discs, and especially the tape that I got to go on top of my glow-in-the-dark discs. It charges that up so fast, so easily, and then they're super bright, easy to find in the darkest of the night. And the blacklight flashlight just wasn't enough. Sometimes I would play night golf and then I would take my flashlight in the house and then I would forget to bring it to school the next day. So I actually invested in a cute little blacklight light that you see in the back, and it has like a crook neck so you can point it whichever direction you want. And I brought that into school and I actually clipped it onto the handle of the art supplies closet. So, and then I faced the actual light part towards the door so that kids could just walk up and slide their neon coloring page under it and see how it just comes to life. And when their parents came and picked them up, they would love to take their art over there and show it off to their parents, and their parents always just gasped in awe and wonderment of being very impressed to see what kind of work their students have been doing during the day. And it's so unique, it's so different. Not a lot of people are doing neon paintings and things like that, but I think it gives it an added element of surprise and of wonder. I think it's amazing. And the blacklight flashlight that I got just wasn't enough. I had to get the crook neck light, and then I ended up also buying a floodlight. Why not? And it came in a set of two. So I got one for the school, and that was going to go in a corner of the room so that we could put all of their neon coloring up in one place and then point this huge blacklight floodlight at it. And just, it was going to be such an amazing gallery that we never even got to set up, because after I got all that, it wasn't a few days later that we heard that everybody will be sent home due to COVID-19. And so that's where we've all been since then. I actually filled up my entire car from floor to ceiling with all the art supplies that I had brought to school. And driving all that home was a very, very, very sad day. And I didn't even know that that would be the last day of this entire school year that I would get to see the kids in person. And I sure do miss seeing them every single day. There were so many kids there that they just brightened up my day. I just loved seeing them. I loved hearing their stories. And I just love listening to them talk. And I love being inspired by them, and I love that they were inspired by me. And it was just really fun getting to see them every day, and I sure do miss them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm making these videos. so that I can still be a part of their lives and they can be a part of mine. So big shout out to all the kids at the treehouse that I really miss, and I feel like we all sort of feel a little bit like prisoners now in our own homes, even though we shouldn't. At times we do. And I heard one time that art is the best way to run away from home without having to leave your house. And so I thought I'd share that. If you feel like you're cooped up and you're tired of being there and you just want an escape and you just want to get away, then I inspire you to get your paints out, even your good paints, and get some craft supplies, watch a YouTube tutorial, watch a video and get inspired and do something fun and creative and break free from the monotony of the day to day. And I will be impressed. So here I am using my glow-in-the-dark puff paints. After I did all of that blacklight work, I waited for the paints to dry, for the neon paints, and you can see in the background it's very dark. So I'm sitting out here on my deck into the wee hours of the night, and now I'm using one of my favorite puff paints ever, which is the glow-in-the-dark puff paint. And I've tried a lot of glow-in-the-dark paints, and I have not been very impressed, I have to admit. But the puff paints that I got that glow in the dark are quite bright, and they work better than most glow in the dark paints I've ever tried. Plus, they're easy to apply because it has a little fine tip, application right there, and so you just lightly squeeze and pull, and that's pretty much it. And then if you mess up, you can always use a Q-tip to clean up the edges. Here I'm going over my signature. I sign all of my work with a FG butterfly. It's just a little butterfly, and in the bottom wings, the left one says F, and the right bottom wing says G, and that's my initials, FG, like Faith Green or like Frisbee Golf. I got kind of lucky there. So I'm just going over my signature now, which I did put in white paint over the neons, and now I'm putting glow-in-the-dark paint. If you ever want it to glow really, really bright, make it white and then make it glow. That's my method. So here I'm just filling in my butterfly, and then I'm putting all the glow-in-the-dark paints on top of the highlight parts of the dragon, and you'll see in a minute how different it looks. Even when there's no light, there's still Toothless. And another thing to remember when you're adding the glow-in-the-dark element is to start at the top and work your way down. Because if I would have started in the middle or at the bottom, I mean, I guess I could still turn the rock, but you really don't want to accidentally smudge or smear the glow-in-the-dark paints. You have to be very, very careful that once you put it on there, you just don't touch it and you let it dry. And puff paints, they do take longer to dry than most paints. So when I'm done here, I'm just going to leave it out overnight and just let it dry overnight by itself without touching it. So I put them up somewhere really high, somewhere that nothing else is going to fall on them or somehow end up getting them smeared or smudged. So I'm just putting in some more. I actually added a few more light gray highlights that I didn't see in the screenshot that was on the left. I added them myself so that at night the image would make more sense. And then now I'm just putting the glow-in-the-dark paints over them. And you might think, oh, well, the glow-in-the-dark paint looks green, and you don't want to put this green paint over the gray because that's going to make it not look gray anymore. But when it dries, it actually dries clear. So it's a little bit three-dimensional, so you'll see that, there's paint on it because of that, but it actually dries very clear. So you don't even have to worry about wasting that light gray with the green over it, because you won't even see the green the next day. You'll be surprised. So before this video is over, which it's coming to a close here soon, I wanted to give a huge thank you to all of my friends and my family, and to even friends of my friends and friends of my family who have supported me over the years with all of my artistic endeavors. And you may have heard the term starving artist before, and it's not a fairy tale. Like when you decide to quit your work, your day job, and maybe you were getting paid really well, like I was, to pursue that which sets your soul on fire, which is art. It's hard to see sometimes how your next meal is going to happen, how you're going to be able to have enough money to pay the bills. And I've been in some really tight places in the last 4 years of just doing art, exclusively doing art. I've been at a point where once we had no food, we had no coffee, we had nothing. Like our fridge was actually bare. And I went over to my BFF's house. Her name is Jenna, and she has two boys named Ben and Owen. And I was showing them some of the jewelry that I had made because I just happened to have it on me just to show to people. And I was just saying, hey, do you guys want to see some of my necklaces that I made? And they were like, yes, sure. So I pulled out this whole huge bag of new creations just to show them. And then one of them, the younger one, Owen, he said, my grandma Bonbon loves turtles. She would love this. And then he was like, can I buy it? Wait, I can buy it. I have money. I have money saved up. And then he ran into his bedroom. He got Ben to go in on it with him, and they both bought that necklace off me for $20. And then Ben found another necklace that he really liked, and he wanted to buy it for himself. So he had his own $20 that he wanted to pay for one of those necklaces as well. And so as this video is coming to a close, before we're all done, I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my friends and my family and friends of my friends and friends of my family who have supported me over the years by purchasing artwork from me, because that was the light at the end of the tunnel. And you may have heard the term starving artist before, and that is not a fairy tale. Sometimes that's very true. If you decide to give up everything for something else, especially if it's art, and it doesn't always pay the bills. It's very hard to make ends meet when you decide to do what you love. Sometimes it's like you just got to do what nobody loves doing, and that's where the money is, because nobody else wants to do it. But a lot of people like doing art, so it's kind of hard to find a buyer. But I've been very, very fortunate that right at the last minute, a lot of times, my friends and my family and my friends of friends and friends of family, they've really saved me when I was in a very dark place and very tight money spot. So I wanted to mention here, it's just a meme that I read before on Facebook, but it says, when you buy from an independent artist, you are buying more than just a painting or a novel or a song. You are buying hundreds of hours of experimentation and thousands of failures. You are buying days, weeks, months, years of frustration and moments of pure joy. You are buying nights of worry about paying the rent, having enough money to eat, having enough money to feed the children, the birds, the dog. You aren't just buying a thing. You are buying a piece of heart, part of a soul, a private moment in someone's life. Most importantly, you are buying that artist more time to do something that they are truly passionate about, something that makes all of the above worth the fear and the doubt, and something that puts the life into the living. And that was by Rebecca Joy Plott. So thank you again to all of you who have supported me in my journey of artistic endeavors and encouraged me and inspired me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, and if you can, share it with all your friends, because sharing is caring, and hopefully we will get to spend more time together soon in the next video. Maybe next time not so long, so I'll get it done a lot sooner, but I sure have enjoyed this time with you, and I really do hope we can do it again soon. And here we have the finished piece. I'm finally done. Woohoo! Look at how it changes with the light. In the darkness, it is still bright. And hopefully we can all be like Toothless here and boldly bring our light into the dark world and spread love, spread kindness, sprinkle it everywhere, and practice random acts of kindness. You will not regret them. You will be a happier person and you will be very pleased with the end result. Giving is just the best thing ever. So here it is in the darkest of dark, glowing away, and now it's under a black light, and here is me finished with it. Woohoo! I sprayed it with a sealant, so now it's waterproof, and I'm about to deliver it to my lovely best friend and neighbor, Allie. There she is, and there we are, together.